flexible. Huh? I see you're from where?
Sweden.
Huh?
Sweden.
Sweden. Any other foreign students here? Ah, from where?
Philippines.
Philippines, I thought so.
Japan.
Japan. So Philippines, Japan, any other students? No. So 3 of you are from the Philippines. Okay. So there's only 1, 2, 3. 3 countries only here. I mean, apart from Malaysia. Any other countries?
There's another one, Laos.
Laos, yeah.
She's coming.
She's coming.
She's coming. I just for everybody's information, I was in. Let's make it more relaxed. Don't look so serious. Reminds me back the days when I was studying. Actually, in fact, I just came back from National University of Singapore. I was chosen by the ASEAN countries, the only one from ASEAN, to attend this leadership development program, sponsored fully by the Singapore government. So I was there for five days in National University of Singapore. And for your information, National University of Singapore is the, sorry, no offense meant to anybody here in UKM, it's the #1 university in the whole of Asia, and it's the number 12 university in the world. And to get selected to go into the university, just to attend a development program, took me 1.5 years. That's how long you get selected to go into National University of Singapore. It's considered as one of the premier universities in this region. But anyway, I did not study there. It was just that by coincidence I was selected by the ASEAN governments to attend this development program, because it was many countries came over all over the world. So I was representing ASEAN at the time, and it was there. My studies were all conducted, just a little bit about background, my studies were all conducted in Australia. I've been in Australia for 7.5 years. Okay, and then 1.5 years in, what do you call that, in Rotterdam, and 1 year in the UK, in London specifically. So those are my background of studies. And as I said, like what Dr. Daud just mentioned, I've been in this field for now 30 years. I consider that as mind the language. It's what we call donkey years in this industry. So I grew up in the oil palm industry. So I am also from the oil palm plantations. So I speak very passionately about the oil palm. And oil palm in Malaysia is one of the biggest industries. So what you are going to see that, and anybody can stop me and ask me any questions. The question is supposed to be presentation all in English. So if anybody, if no offense meant to Dr. Daud, if anybody wants to ask in Bahasa, can ask, I'll translate and give it to our, what do you call that, students from overseas. Sweden is one place I've been. It's a beautiful country. I've been to all your countries. I studied in Philippines as well for a short while in, what do you call, UP. But Japan, I was there in Saitama under the Japanese scholarship. So I have to thank all the foreign governments for giving me the privilege. Free of charge, never take away anything that's free. So Japan was under Japan Allies scholarship. Okay, so I have to thank everybody who has given me free scholarship. Sweden, no, they didn't give me anything. But I visited Sweden. It's a beautiful country, but don't go there during winter. You will want to get away from that. Okay, so anyway, today let's go back to this. For those yang nak tanya soalan itu dalam bahasa Malaysia boleh tanya, no problem. Saya memang lahir kampung, just if you don't mind. Saya memang lahir kampung. I've been in a Malay kampung for 22 years. I am a mixed race, what we call in here in Malaysia Chindian. Chindian. So those who don't know what is Chindian, my mother is Chinese and my father is Indian. My father is Indian. So, but anyway, both my parents, my mother just passed away last week while I was in Indonesia. So what to do? Sometimes it happens, old age. Okay, she is from mainland China. She's not even from here, but from mainland China. Okay, and she passed away, and so that brings us back to this thing. So now, as I said, when you grow older, all these things you'll have to experience. So now, that's a little bit background about me. So I've been in the palm oil business, as I said, for 30 years. Out of the 30 years of this thing, I think 29 years I've been in overseas. So a lot of things I've seen up and down. You are Chindian, so correct? The one sitting at the back.
My father's background was Chinese background, but I'm not too
Yeah. Okay. I can, I mean, normally Chindians can spot Chindians very fast. That's the instincts that we have. Okay. So anyway, and I grew up in a Caucasian environment. So 7.5 years in Australia, that's a long time. So people ask me, how do you assimilate yourself with the white man? That's how we say here, orang putih. But it's not easy, but it can be done if you have your heart and soul put to it. So actually, they're very nice people, especially the Swedish people. They're very nice. Okay, so I have been there. So now let's go to this. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, I'm going to just talk about palm oil in emerging markets, challenges and prospects. That was the title that was given to me. Now, has anybody ever been in, minus these three people, these three countries here, the locals, have you all ever been into an oil palm plantation? Please raise your hand. Oil palm plantations. Kelapa sawit. Tak pernah masuk? Tak pernah masuk. Seorang saja, 2 orang, 3, 4. Only 4 people. Can you imagine in Malaysia itself? So forget about you people, Even the locals have not gone in. So how am I going to talk about oil palm to other people when our own locals have not been there? So that shows how education starts even back home here itself. Now let me be very honest with you. Oil palm it's grouped together with our main competitor is of course soybean oil, rapeseed oil, and now canola oil as you say it. The rapeseed oil doesn't give a very good connotation. It sounds very, very vulgar a bit. So they changed it to canola. So I have to hand out to the Canadians. They're very smart. So this is what we call the Canadian, how they did marketing. They changed a very not nice word from rapeseed. You don't go and rape the seed. But that was the word they used in scientific terms, rapeseed. Now it's canola oil. A bit more glamorous. We thought of changing palm oil one time and they were attacking palm oil left, right, top, bottom. But we didn't want to do that because I think palm oil stays as it is. It's a good oil. It's just that people have different interpretations to the oil. Okay? Boleh faham saya punya bahasa Inggeris? Boleh tak jadi masalah. Kalau ada masalah angkat tangan. Kan saya cakap bahasa lain, you orang pula cakap bahasa lain. Tak boleh lah kan? So if you have any difficulties, please, because this is University Kebangsaan Malaysia, the main language here is of course Bahasa Malaysia. But that's today I was told to present it in English. So I'm presenting it in English, unless otherwise some people have got any question. So let's go to the next topic. So this is where I come. So that's my background, especially economics and industry. Now, my first degree was in economics, pure economics. Very, very seldom you get economics student, pure economics nowadays. So I'm pure economics, and my second degree was in business studies, and the third degree was in international studies. International marketing. So that's it. And I'm also a fellow of the Australian Marketing Institute. Okay. And also a certified practicing marketer. To reach that level, you must have years of experience. Now that's very important. So one of the good things about that is that in Australia they teach you all these kind of things. Okay, and I'm also a qualified chef. Qualified chef. So don't try to come and sell me about cooking. So I'm a qualified sous chef. I work in a 5-star hotel in Melbourne. In Melbourne they allow you freedom what you want to do. So I never came back for that so many years I was staying there. I never came back. So I did a lot of additional activities there, the good ones of course. The cooking was one of the culinary. We call it culinary this thing. So I did Italian cuisine. So that's the background to it. So now it comes in very handy when you're marketing palm oil. Remember, doctor, we are waiting for you to come, so that you don't miss out. So in culinary cuisine and all that, you need to use a lot of vegetable oil. So if you want to sell vegetable oil, particularly your palm oil, nothing else but at least you learn how to go into the kitchen. I'm very sure some of you ladies here and guys, especially the guys, wouldn't have stepped into the kitchen. Huh? Okay, and some people will think that being in the kitchen is very ladylike. No, that's rubbish. Doesn't mean that if you're in the kitchen that you're ladylike. It's just that it gives you an added advantage because you know exactly what you are as a student. Okay, so this is something that you will learn. So now, coming back to this, so palm oil basically is all about these things. So it's used in whatever you have to use. Now let's go back to this. Now this is my presentation outline today. I'm going to talk about introduction, then world oils and fats situation, the world palm oil situation, Malaysian palm oil export performance, key challenges, this is in general, then I'll zoom down specifically to the emerging markets, and then I'll talk about advantages and prospect of palm oil in conclusion. In fact, I've already deleted quite a lot. This itself is taking, you can't really cover so many things in one half afternoon, but I'll try, okay? Now this is the introduction part of it. You can see here, for those who do not know what oil palm looks like, especially those who have not even stepped into, please do take a photograph and keep it. I'm a bit, saya pun malu sikit lah, because our locals do not know what is oil palm. Okay, this is a bunch. The bunch consists of fruitlets like this. A bunch can, if you want to know a real weight of a bunch, go and stand under an oil palm tree while he's harvesting. Then, if it drops on your head, and you're still standing there, God has given you some grace period. Remember, God has given you some grace period. Otherwise, I have to take a spade and scoop your brain up. Now, that is how the height of the bunch coming down. A bunch can weigh easily minimum 25 kilos. And you're looking at 40 kilos. So imagine 40 kilos, double this height, and it's dropping at you at a speed. So you really are asking for trouble if you're standing underneath and you're not sure of this. Now it's thorny, but what we do is that we will take this. Okay, just to give you an idea, so this is how a bunch look like. I didn't have a tree there, but as we go along we will see whether we have a tree or not. Okay, this is the bunch coming from the tree. After 3 years old, the tree, when the oil palm is 3 years old, you get the bunch ready for harvesting. When you harvest it and you cross cut the oil palm fruitlet, this is what we call a fruitlet. The fruitlet consists of two parts. Palm oil comes from here, palm kernel oil comes from here. Reserve your questions on which is a better quality. No, there's no better quality. Both serve a different purpose. Now, this is where the fibrous, this thing, it's like squeezing orange juice from an orange. You steam it, it becomes soft, you squeeze it, the oil comes from here, and this is what we call palm oil. Now, from the scientific point of view, this is what we call the pericarp. Pericarp is the thin skin that's going out. This is what we call the mesocarp. This is what we call the shell. And inside is the kernel. So this is how it comes out. So you squeeze these under steam pressure and it becomes soft. So it's like squeezing your juice from an orange. Then what you do you will get the palm oil coming from here. When you break the nut, what we call nut cracking, you will get, so nut is this plus the kernel inside. Okay, now when you crack the nut, you will get the kernel, the whitish. Now it is like in the coconut. In the coconut, the fiber there's no oil in the fiber, but in the oil palm, this is the one. Now you must know the difference between oil palm and palm oil. Oil palm is the tree, palm oil is the oil. Don't get mixed up, and don't come and tell me that's a palm oil tree. Wrong. A lot of learned people also make that mistake. A lot of people. And I've noticed that even in academia also, when they write articles, they say palm oil tree or palm oil plantation, which is wrong. It is oil palm plantations. And when you are doing this, it's not growing, it's cultivating oil palm. Because you know why? Because this is an estate crop. It's a plantation crop, so you cultivate. So different terminologies. So please use the right terminologies. So when you see an oil palm tree, don't say it's a palm oil tree. It's an oil palm tree. A lot of people make this mistake very regularly. So it's an oil palm tree. The oil that comes out from that palm nut is what we call palm oil. So this is palm oil, this is palm kernel oil. They got different applications. Palm oil competes with soybean oil, canola oil, what do you call groundnut oil, and so forth, whichever country you're coming from. And you also have sesame oil in Japan. You have Philippines coconut oil that competes with this oil, the one in the middle, that's coconut oil, vis-a-vis palm kernel oil, and then you have palm oil. Now palm oil is classified together with what we call our competition is from soft oils. Soft oils are soybean oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, these are the soft oils. So you must know the difference. So this is how the bunch will look like, and then after that, when you get this fruitlet, this is just a fruitlet, one piece. So these many fruitlets make a bunch. So this is where you get the oil and it comes in. So at least I've given you some slight introduction on this. Now, this is the world population. I no need to teach you all these things. As long as there's man and female, we'll be producing children. If you are good at it. Okay, and God's blessing. Okay? Now, world population will keep on rising. You look at this, 1990, 5.3 billion. And when you come to 2000, now we are in 20, by 2016, and you look at 7.3, and you can see how it's growing. Thank God, the world can accommodate all these people. In time to come, we may have to go to Mars. Okay? That is beyond our recognition now, but let's focus on down to earth, what's happening. Population is fast expanding, and you look at this population here, this part here. You can see here, this is what the consumption figures are taking place. Something is blocking that. How do I get rid of that? Yang ini? Hah? Ini kan? Saya ini ketinggalan zaman. Okay. Sekarang nampak. Okay, kat sini ya. You can see here consumption figures. This we are talking about oils and fats consumption figures. From 1980 is going up, all the way up. As long as we are living in this world, we will continue consuming palm oil. Or for that matter, oils and fats. In this case, it's oils and fats. And per capita consumption, you look at here. From 12.8, it has gone up to 20.8, to about 28.1. Now this is average I'm using. In Malaysia, we already bypassed that figure already. Malaysians are gastronomical eaters. They really eat. The first thing they'll ask you is, have you eaten? They don't ask you, are you okay? Have you eaten? So the best way to make friends with a Malaysian is, take him out for makan. And you sit down and you check stories with you while he's eating. Guy or girl for that matter. Okay? So what's happening here is that population is increasing, so does the consumption figures. Now, this is where I'll come back to this. The most produced, traded and consumed vegetable oil in the global oils and market. You look at the percentage. Gone are the days when people used to talk about soya bean as the main oil. Now it's no. It is all about palm oil. Palm oil is now the most produced, traded means export, import, and consumed in the world. Planted only in 0.3%. Sorry for those people who keep complaining that oil palm is destroying the world. We are not. You go to South America, the amount of land that's cleared for planting of soya bean, no offense meant to anybody, is vast tracts of grassland is cleared. Okay? In here, in our case, it's only 0.3% of the planted area of agricultural land, and it is producing 30% of the global oils and fats. You can see here how. Now, what is it driven by? It's driven by both food and industrial demand. Source of global food, 83%. Oleochemicals, now these are the value-added products, like your shampoos, your surfactants, your, what do you call that, personal care products. All this comes from there. Biofuel is 2%. In Malaysia, our biofuel, or what we call biodiesel, is now currently at 7%. I'm just talking about general, overseas. Renewable energy source potential remains largely untapped through palm biomass. We only take 10% of the oil palm for producing what we are producing now. 90% consists of biomass. So if you are people, the entrepreneurs, would be, go into that area of business. That is the future. Untapped. We only take the 10% out of the oil palm, which is the oil mainly. The 90% is the biomass, and we are not fully tapping on it. So that is one area we can look at. The other one. Now the world oils and fat situation, quickly I just want to give you an idea. For those who have not seen sunflower, this is sunflower. Please get yourself familiarized. Now the other one is here. You can see a little bit here, peanuts here, or some people call it groundnut. It's the same. Then you have another one here. Here is what do you call that? Corn oil, or here British Queen's English. It's maize oil. Corn is American, please. For the Filipinos, you are very, very close with the Americans. So good luck to you, with the new president coming in. Okay. But I heard you have made good friends with your new president as well. He said hello to each other. So let's see how it comes out. Okay, so this is that. And here you can see is cottonseed oil. The cottonseed also produces cotton, also produces cottonseed oil. So you have quite a number here. I just wanted to give you some ideas which are the ones. Soya bean is there. In this here. Okay. Now what is the oils? Altogether, there are 17 oils and fats that we compete with, including, that means, in other words, we've got 15 oils which we compete with, excluding palm oil, excluding palm kernel oil. When you include palm oil, palm kernel oil, there's 17 oils and fats that we have included. So I've shown you in statistics wise. Okay? I can, if those who are interested can ask me later, I can make this available for you. Okay, now these are the statistics that's very clear here, as you can see. What we are producing in the world and what is being consumed, you look at the difference, it's not much, The earlier part here, as you can see here, 2013, what we say in Malaysia, nam nam, is just enough. If anything were to happen to palm oil, you will have a big problem. We don't have enough of oil. So this is where it comes in the 2013. Come 2015, don't say that this is more. A 2 million ton extra doesn't make any difference to the world. It's only a temporary kind of a situation. Palm oil is now doing a justice in terms of reducing world poverty. Poverty in terms of this thing and for hunger, food hunger. It creates a lot of job opportunities for the rural folks, not only in Malaysia, but in Indonesia as well, and in other countries. And also it is food. Remember, 85 to 90% of the oil is used for food. The non-edible part is less. Food is the most important one. So this year you can see here, it has risen here. Look at this, production 2.2%, disappearance, or what we call consumption in layman's word. This is a technical word, and disappearance. Normal word is we call consumption. In the oil world, which is a kind of a neutral body which looks after oils and fats, disappearance is divided into apparent consumption, inapparent. Apparent is what you consume, I and you can see. Inapparent, I mean it goes into other users which you cannot see. So that is why we call this disappearance. This we are using a technical term, but in simple language it is consumption. Okay? And you can stop me and ask me, it's not a one-way traffic. Please, I don't talk and you just listen. You're talking to what do you call that, a practitioner, person from the trade. So if you've got any questions, please raise your hand and ask me, no problem, we'll stop and answer you. I've given the afternoon for you, so it's okay, no problem. Next, just to give you an idea where palm oil stands. Palm oil here, 2009, 2015, 28, 30%. You look our small, what do you call that now? I call this small brother. You look our brother here, soya bean oil, is still there, it's increasing, but when you compare to this one is much bigger. And these statistics are coming from neutral parties. I don't want to say, it's because if I put some statistics here, people might say, I am being biased, very pro palm oil. No, I'm giving you a neutral party source for this information. Clear? Okay, this is the world exports. Just now you saw production. Now you're seeing exports. Look at the exports figures. Just now it's only 2, but now you look at the percentage. It's getting bigger. Now look at soya bean oil. It's staying put. Over the years, it's staying put. 2009, 2015, it's staying put. This is going up. In fact, it's maintaining the position. 56 and 57%, you can see here. So it's a huge figure. Then you can look at canola oil. I put here technical terms. So the technical terms here is rapeseed oil, which is actually canola oil. So you can see here it's 4%, 5%. Then you look, the next one is sunflower oil, 8 and 9%. Now what it clearly shows here is that not only is the oil produced is big, palm oil, but it's the traded oil itself, the export is huge for the case of palm oil. Okay. This is the disappearance of what I told you is consumption figures. Consumption figures, again you can see here, we are still competing with them, but these figures are increasing in terms of consumption. Okay, so here 22, here 23, here 27, here is 30%. So this is global oils and fats we are looking at. So it shows clearly that, like what I told you earlier, produced, traded and consumed. So this is where the thing comes in. Now what is the world palm oil situation? For those who are not familiar where oil palm is grown, now I'm bringing back you to reality. You know, this screen here is not so sharp enough, but at least you can see where it's grown. Anything from the equator, you take the equator here straight, you draw a line, 5 degrees north, 5 degrees south is the most ideal for planting oil palm. At least when you leave this class, you can tell where oil palm is grown. You're not so, you're not so, inadequate in knowledge. So at least you can get this. So 5 degrees north of the equator, 5 degrees south of the equator. And likewise, at the moment now, due to economic reasoning, 10 degrees north, 10 degrees south of the equator, also you can plant oil palm. But the most ideal is 5 degrees north, 5 degrees south. That is why you find a concentration of all these countries here. Look, all these countries. Now, is oil palm native to Malaysia? No. We have to thank our brothers. Normally, when I go to the other universities, they have got a lot of students from Africa. So here I have not seen anybody today, but unfortunately, so I have to thank those. If you go to University of Malaya, you get a lot of African students. So I have to thank the Africans for this. Now, it came as an ornamental crop, and next year we will be celebrating 100 years of commercial planting. It became a commercial planting in 1970. It came into Malaysia way back in 1870s as an ornamental crop, and then became a commercial planting in 1970. So next year culminates the 100 years of oil palm commercial planting in Malaysia. So next year you will see a lot of activities related to oil palm. So those who have been reading the Star on Saturday, there was an article in the business section. Go back, check. There was a business section on oil palm, 100 years of oil palm cultivation. Okay, in the business, or they call it Biz Week, last Saturday. It was there. So go back and read an article full of news on oil palm. So this is the background to it in terms of global oil palm cultivation. So none from Sweden, none from Japan, a bit from Mindanao Island, okay, Philippines. Palm oil balance, just to give you an idea where palm oil, now we are looking at, just now from the 17 oils and fats, we are competing, now we go back into this palm oil balance. That means I just take out palm oil, where palm oil is. You can look at the figures how they're growing. So there is a 4.4% production increase vis-a-vis 2014. And then you can see the disappearance consumption 2.8, and look at exports. Exports are getting bigger and bigger. Okay, so this is where is it coming from? From the stocks that has been built up over the years. Okay, so there is always this figure of what we call exports growing, and production is also growing, but still a lot of people, if you ask, they say that it's not enough because the consumption is going up more. Now, this is where, if you go by an economic outlook, you can see a very smooth line with slight interruptions. But if you draw a line, it will be like straight going up, correct?
Yes.
So you can see here how the line is. It shows the production has been going up smoothly over the years, and nothing is stopping it. Now, this frightens the hell out of some of the developed countries. Why? Because it is competing with their domestic oils and fats. So this is where the problem comes for oil palm. Okay? This is where. Now, 85% of the production comes from two countries, both Malaysia and Indonesia. Now, When you leave this class, if somebody asks you, is Malaysia the largest producer and exporter? No. It is now Indonesia. Indonesia is the largest producer and exporter of palm oil. Number 2 is Malaysia. So Indonesia has overtaken. Why? Simply for the reason is because they have got a bigger landmass area than us. Okay, so that's where we have only about 5.67 million hectares of oil palm area. Okay, so Indonesia has about 30, so it's more than this. So they have more. In terms of production, Indonesia produces about 33 million tons, and we produce about 20 million tons. So see the big gap, and they have got still a lot of areas which still they have not opened up. Okay. Any questions on conservation and traceability? You can ask me later why you open up those kind of areas. So this is where the situation comes in. You can see here, Indonesia at the early stages was below. Now they have shot up, and this will happen in the years to come. It's not going to stop. Next, we look at the palm oil producers. Again, I give you an idea. In 2005, Indonesia 42%. Now you look, Indonesia is 53%. So they have jumped from here to here, and Malaysia has gone down. Simply for the reason is because we don't have enough of land area to cultivate oil palm. So we are now going into those areas. Major exporters, again, just now was 85% for production. Now for exports, 90% is coming from Malaysia and Indonesia. Now I was recently in Indonesia, like what Dr. Daud just mentioned, and I also came back from there. We have formed, not a cartel, we have formed the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries. We open it up to other member countries to join in. If you are producing oil palm, you can come in. But it doesn't mean Singapore has an oil palm tree there, they can become a member of that one. No. We are talking about real oil palm producing countries. You can't have 1 or 2 trees in a garden and say, I'm an oil palm producer. No, it doesn't work that way. We are now talking about people who really produce oil palm. They can be members. For countries which are not, we call them dialogue partners. That means that they can come and join for the discussion purposes in which direction you're moving in terms of trade. But when it comes to oil palm producing countries, we are now giving other countries. So indication is that Philippines has indicated, Thailand has indicated, Colombia has indicated to join the council. Okay, this is jointly mooted by Malaysia. If you read this, this is the new latest development. They call it the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries. Or in short form, we call it CPOC. Everybody likes what they call Korean pop. So we took out the C and we put the C in front, the C at the back, and the pop is in the middle. So you got CPOC if you want to pronounce it. So it's easy. So what we call that Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries. So easy to remember, CPOC. Okay, so that's background to it. Now this is the major exporters in a graphical this thing, as you can see here. 51% we were the major exporters in 2005, but you look at the figures now, we have gone down to where Indonesia was, more or less. If you take this and you look at here, this is where Indonesia was. Now Malaysia has taken that spot, and we have reversed the situation. Indonesia has come here to Malaysia. You can see how the difference has taken place. So that is how fast oil palm is expanding in Indonesia. Clear? Okay. So this is the background to it. Now countries that are not included in the others, as you can see here, includes, we have put here one asterisk is missing somehow or other. So these are the other countries we have put here. So these are what we call Honduras, Colombia, Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire is a French name. The English name is Ivory Coast. Okay, so the French name is Cote d'Ivoire. Pronounce it properly. You can pronounce wrongly, it can mean something else. So it's Cote d'Ivoire. Okay, Thailand, Ecuador, and so forth. These are all South American countries. So you have Thailand there as one of the big ones. So clear about this. Okay, this is the major consumers. As you can see here, which are the major consumers? India, EU, China, Indonesia. Indonesia is also there. Now, those days, coconut oil was the major oil consumed in Indonesia. Now no more. It's now Indonesia is taking more of palm oil. Okay, and you have India, China. These are all big populated countries. In years to come, people are predicting if China were to hold on to the policy of one, we are two, ours is one. Nice rhyming, huh? We are two. That means husband and wife. We are two. Ours is one child. Now no more. We are two, ours is two. Policy has been reversed in China. But if we go to rural China, rural areas in China, any amount of babies is born. Huh? Because they need those children to do farming activities. Huh? So that was the concept, and they're still now having that. And you can see here how this consumption pattern has gone up. Again, more of a smooth line going up. Huh? Okay? Now, this just to give you an idea about the consumption figures. I just wanted to highlight. Now, all these countries have been traditional, this thing, so they are there. But look at Indonesia, 2005, 10%. Now it has gone up to 12%. Now, this is expected to go up. For all of you, the biggest Muslim nation in the world is Indonesia. They have over 280 million population. You go to Jakarta alone, you get crowded in that city. So it is not an easy place to travel in Jakarta. I go down every time there, and I also find it so difficult because it takes about 2 hours to get out. If you're telling Kuala Lumpur is jammed, go to Jakarta and Bangkok, then you will know what is jammed. Okay, so that is where the thing comes in. Even Philippines is getting bad. Now, I heard Philippines is getting bad. I was there at Clark Base. Is it Clark Base? You call it that? Clark Base. And on the way going from the airport, but if you are taking the Air Asia one, it goes direct to that place. But if you are taking Malaysian Airlines, it goes to the main airport. And from the main airport going into the city center is really hell driving. So with all the jeepneys crisscrossing here and there, it's a beautiful country. As I said when I was there, but now it has lost the charm. Especially your Subic Bay. I mean the Manila Bay. Sorry, not Subic Bay. The Manila Bay. There's no more bay already. Those days when I went there, we used to have big vessels coming straight into the bay. Sunset was so beautiful at Ermita, that area there. So I had good memories of that, but now it's gone. So what to do? So basically this is where the situation is for palm oil. So now just to give you an idea, Malaysian palm oil export performance. Okay. Now the oil is not basically like this. I just put it for decoration, so just clear this, it will be in different packaging. Malaysian palm oil export performance. Okay, export volume of oil palm products, I've given you palm oil. Now these are the main product categories. So remember, palm oil comes from oil palm. So this is the one coming from the fiber. This is coming from the nut. Inside the kernel, there's a kernel. You crush the kernel, you get palm kernel oil. Palm kernel cake is after you crush the kernel oil, you get the oil, the residue is the cake. Remember, where do you get your cake from? It's not the cake that you eat every day, So this is not the cake. So the name, this is the name that's given. Some people call it expeller. Some people call it cake. So for those speaking Malay, it's deda isi rom sawit. Deda isi rom sawit. So that is the one. So this is palm kernel cake. So this is when you crush the kernel, the white color substance, you get the oil. What is left over is the residue. That residue is what we call palm kernel cake. The oleochemical comes from the palm stearin. There's another one that goes into the higher value adding. You take that product and you start fractionating it, you get other products coming out. Okay, it's a big industry. At one time, the country's 10% of the country's GDP comes from oil palm. If you read the newspaper, somebody has quoted that it is 8% in the newspaper. Now, everything that you read in the newspaper is not all the truth. Okay, the figures should be rectified. It's not 8%. I would suggest it's somewhere in the region of about 5 to 6, simply for the reason is because other industries have grown up in terms of value contribution. Okay, so in the newspaper it's put as 8% of the country's GDP. It is not absolutely correct. It's not. Okay, then you got biodiesel. Now this biodiesel is the one that is made from either crude palm oil or from RBD palm oil. The best one is, of course, you take RBD palm oil. Okay, RBD palm oil is coming from the processed palm oil. Okay, processed palm oil is basically you take the crude palm oil, you process it further, then you will get the refined products. Now this is what we call RBD. Now for those who do not know what is RBD, it's refined for R, B is for bleached, and D is for deodorized. Now, I'm sure quite a number of you do not know what is refined. What is refined? Okay, refined is from crude to processed. Bleached means you remove the coloring. Now, if you go to Africa and you give them golden yellow palm oil, they will say that is adultery. Why? Because for them, the crude oil with the pungent smell, that is processed. For them, they like it that way. Not say processed, that is the way they consume. I'll come to one point, that is the taste preference later inside one of the challenges. Red palm oil. In our case, you go to the supermarkets and all that, you find a golden yellow. How do you get the golden yellow? That is where the refining process takes place. So you bleach, you remove the coloring from the reddish, orangey color to a golden yellow. Then you deodorize. Deodorize means you remove the smell. That's why palm oil has no smell. Because when you process it, first stage, there is a very strong pungent smell. But when you go into the final product, there is no smell. That smell is removed. That is why we call it RBD. Refined, bleached, deodorized. Under the processed palm oil. And then you take the palm oil and you fractionate, you get two oils. So that is where it comes in here. So this category here. Now finished products are those categories like this. Shortening, you use for your bread, you want to raise up your bread. Vegetable fat, vegetable ghee. For those who are very conscious, they don't want, the milk fat. So they go for the vegetable ghee. If you are concerned about being overweight, nowadays everybody is talking about obesity. You want to be slim, good looking to the guys. So what do? You try to keep a trim body by taking vegetable ghee instead of taking milk fat. Milk fat is the one that you, for those who are not familiar, you go to the supermarket, you find the QBB, the grain can. Now that is 100%. Itu 100%. So that is 100% milk fat, dairy fat. Now that one, you ask any Indian, all are smiling now. The Indians love that QBB ghee, okay, because it's good, tasty. Anything that's not so good is always tasty, because it keeps you very enjoyable. So okay, so that's the background to it. Then you find others, palm kernel shell. Nowadays, all these got this thing. So these are all the waste products. What we call now waste to wealth. No more waste. If those days coconut, as you go to Philippines, they will say coconut was the tree of life. In Malaysia now the tree of life is not coconut, it's oil palm. You go to Mindanao now, nobody talks about coconut. They talk about oil palm in the Philippines. Because it is the tree of life now. Why? Simply because we never threw anything away. Everything is recycled. Everything got money. Now palm kernel shell. Those days we used to use carbon. Now if you want, the shell is even used as a reliever for your stomach upset. The black carbons you have, the charcoal, correct? Now we make this palm kernel shell. Okay? So if you are taking this, then lead for your pencil. Nothing. And then after that for boilers, you use this for boilers. This is environmentally friendly. Then oil palm fiber. Okay, the fiber you can even grow orchids. Orchids? We sell this to Taiwan. This fiber, if you want to do it, take the fiber. It's like having koi fiber from coconut. You can use it as a base for planting orchids. Okay, and also for other things, for your cushion seat, sludge, residue, all this all goes into making into lubricants, greases, waxes. See, there's so many users. So it's my right users. Next, export value. As you can see here, what's the export value here? Now, it has gone down over the years. Now, I'm just giving you 2016 Jan-October figures. But it has gone up to 80 billion ringgit. We are not talking about 1, 2 ringgit, we are talking about billions. So this is a big industry. So all our Malaysians should be very proud this industry is bringing a lot of revenue. So this is oil palm, this is oil palm products. So that's why you find here other oil palm products, what you have here. So all these are the categories of palm oil as you can see here. So it brings in a lot of revenue for the country in terms of palm oil for the industry. Okay, now we go back to the markets. This is where all our foreign people here are very useful for us. Thank you very much on behalf of the Malaysian palm oil industry. You are consuming a lot. Look at here. I have never forgotten Philippines. It's not always there. No? Not because I know that you people are here, but it's coincidentally is there. Japan is there. Now Japan, you have to go back and do a little bit of selling on behalf of the Malaysian palm oil industry. Has gone down a bit, 16%. So Japanese people love to bring in oil seeds, soya bean. They bring in soya bean to make tofu and tofu drinks and all kinds of soya bean paste. So that is duty free entering into the thing. If you're in the business, you bring in oil seeds duty free. So in the process of making tofu and tofu drinks and whatever not, you get the oil that's coming on. So they get free oil, not even paying a cent for the duty. Whereas the others, they pay duty. So this is where it comes in. So you look here, EU is down. Now this is all happening here now lately, and then later you can ask me why they are down. I explain to you. EU is down. Sufficient supply availability of rapeseed oil. I still use the technical term, it's a canola oil. Okay. Lower imports of canola oil coming in. So now here you can see here Pakistan has gone up, Turkey has gone up, China has come down slightly. I won't say slightly, like 29% is quite big. Okay, Japan has gone down, Bangladesh again gone up, India gone down. You see, it's like a yo-yo, Now why it's like a yo-yo? Because some of the markets are very price conscious. Price conscious markets are India, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh. All these are price sensitive markets. Quality sensitive markets are like Japan. No need to say, you go to Japan, you will see everything. One thing I like about Japan is a very civilized society. Very civilized. Even during earthquake time, you see that? What do they have there? They all line up and take. You try and hear. Thank God, nothing has happened in Malaysia before. But in Indonesia, during that tsunami incident, I was so amazed at the way that the Japanese lined up and took the food relief that was coming to them. Even in that situation, and now I revert back to Middle East. You look at Middle East, Pakistan and all this, people were going and grabbing the food. Here, no. They lined up to take the food, which is very remarkable of the Japanese. Very high. I have to salute them for that. That's something that we can learn from the Japanese. So that is the high social standing that they have. They have been trained that way. Okay, so this is good. So this is where. Now, our lady friend here from Sweden will be asking, where is Sweden here? How come it's not here? Unfortunately, you are grouped together under the EU, just next to the EU. Not in the EU, you're in the EU. Yeah, at least you're alert. Okay. So you are part of the EU, but you are actually one of the normally when we talk to the EU people, you all are the Scandinavian countries. You are part of the Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Norway, what else do you have? Denmark, yes. All these countries are very good markets, very developed, but they are also very health conscious. So they are very quality conscious. So if you are exporting to those markets, you make sure that your quality product is very important. This is very important in that sense. So when you're exporting to the EU market, you have to be very careful about that. So those are the ones. Same thing with the USA, EU, Japan. All these are very highly quality conscious market. You need to make sure that the products that you're exporting meets the high standards of sustainability, traceability, all kinds of things. You have to go there. So for these countries, I'm not saying that the quality is not there. China is now increasingly become quality conscious. We want to export to them. After so many food scarce, they have now begun to become very quality conscious. Now these are what we call the traditional markets. Now the new markets upcoming are these are the markets. Vietnam, although it is in the ASEAN group of countries, they are already what we call that expanding. But don't take 1 year and make your conclusions. No. These are all price sensitive markets. So if your price is competitive enough, they will pick up the oil. Later we will go and see why some are going down, why some are going up. Now these are the emerging markets. Now these are the emerging markets. Please take note. We have central and western province of China. China is not all completely taken up already. That is the central part. Like as you go to Inner Mongolia, what do you call that, Yunnan province. So those kind of areas you still have got a big market potential. Because those are what we call, you know, what they have been now highlighting, what do you call that, one belt, one road. The concept, the new one that's coming up. They are also talking about that. Now ASEAN itself, we have a very huge population of over 500 million. So it's a huge population that we are having there. And you can see that in ASEAN we have not fully, some of the new markets, like as I told you, in Philippines itself we've got a lot of potential. Like in the island of Mindanao itself. So they take a lot of oil. Central Asian republics. Now these are Central Asian republics, or what we call them the Stan brothers. Not the Gostan brothers. We call them the Stan brothers. Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. You see all the Stan. They are all adik-beradik. The Stan brothers I call them. So take note. You have the biggest one, of course, you have got the Uzbekistan. And then Kazakhstan. Yesterday they had a function there. Kazakhstan National Day. So Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan. Now if you're telling me all this, I had a problem of pronouncing all these names because Malaysia was the first country in the world to recognize all this. So at that time, Tun Abdullah Badawi was the Foreign Affairs Minister. So I represented my minister on his entourage. I was there when these countries declared independence from Russia. So we chartered a flight and went down to all these countries. And at that time, these countries were underdeveloped, not developed at all. They were just breakaway republics from, what do you call that, from the Russian Federation. So now you have the Russian Federation. These are what we call Central Asia republics. Okay, so Central Asia republics are basically these countries. Now these countries got a lot of potentials in terms of minerals, but they don't have big agriculture sectors. When you go to these countries, if you are apt at eating horses meat, camels meat, by all means go there and enjoy your food. They will serve you tongue, camel tongue. Yeah, I've tried that once. What do you call it in Uzbekistan? Uzbekistan and these places. So they'll give you, what do you call that, horse meat. So those who like all these things, you can go and try. And these are beautiful countries also. Go and try. These are all Central Asian republics. Then you have the Central and Eastern European countries. Central and Eastern European. Central and Eastern European, these are all like Slovenia, Croatia, then Czech republics, all these countries. Now, these are countries which have been traditionally using animal fats. People are now becoming very health conscious. They are now moving away to vegetable oils and fats. So those are the new market that we are now looking at. South Asia, of course, South Asia, we are now talking about the, what I call that, the small countries, like Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Nepal. So those are the countries. India, Pakistan is already very traditional market. They have been there. But these are the small countries in South Asia. South Asia. So these are the ones. Then you have the East Asia. East Asia is Japan, Korea, Taiwan. So those are the countries. Africa, West Africa and East Africa. I'll show you a little bit on West Africa and East Africa now. This is latest information, West Africa and East Africa. These are countries where the population is huge. They keep producing babies after babies. What to do? God has granted them that ability, so they keep on producing. So it's good blessing for palm oil. So these are untapped markets. So I will come back to that. This is the key challenges in general I'll give you. Okay. Duopoly price war. That is why I told you just now, all this while the benefit has been going to the consuming countries. We have been fighting a war. we undercut each other. Why should we undercut and give the price benefit to others? So this is where we try to not to do that. So this is what I told you, the CPOP-C, the Council of Palm Oil Producing Countries. They bear the export tax, and then what they do is they talk about the refined products. They save on the upstream, but they save the savings and give it to the downstream fellas. So we are competing with them at a lower price. And this is very bad. Competition between Malaysia and Indonesia shouldn't be there at all. But we have been fighting this for a long time. Then we realized the benefit is being accrued to the buyers. Why should we be giving away this? So that's why we decided, now let's sit down and talk. And that's what now we are doing. I've been involved in this one for a long time. Now it's working to our advantage. So Malaysian palm oil industry affected by depressed prices. Likewise, Indonesian exporters, they undercut. Now, what is happening here is that this is a lose-lose outcome for both countries. This is not good. So we have decided to have this, and we are now working together to see how best we can work. It is not a cartel. Please don't understand. Don't misunderstand. It's not a cartel. It is a kind of an arrangement that we are now having so that producing countries can get good remunerative returns for the industry. That means that we do not want just to be on the losing end. Why should we be undercutting each other and giving the benefit to the to the importers or the buyers? We don't want to do that. So now we work together. And this is one example, and we call this duopoly. In economic terms, we call it duopoly. There's only two major guys who dominate the market. Competition from other palm oil producing countries, Thailand, Colombia, Nigeria. Thank God, Philippines is not there yet. Who knows in future, when things become more calmer in Mindanao, then you have see more palm oil coming there. But what is happening here? These countries are all producing domestically to produce enough oil for their local needs. When they do that, they will try to reduce their imports of palm oil. So we have to go and find more new users into the market. How do we do that? We have joint ventures investments in these countries. If you can't beat the crowd, join the crowd. So what do? We go and work together with these companies in those countries. That means we go and do collaborative efforts. Now this is one way we can face the challenge in these markets. El Nino effect. Whatever God gives, you take. You cannot go and complain to God, God, why are you having dry season here? If you go to South America, the people will be complaining, why are you giving me floods? You go to Kelantan and Terengganu, now it's all flooding. Can you blame God for that? That's God's way of saying you have to pray to God all the time. Don't forget. Now what is happening here? Natural calamities like this. Natural calamities you can't avoid. That is why this year our production has taken a plunge. Last year we produced close to 20 million tons of palm oil. This year we are not going to produce that amount of oil. And we have gone down. So these are what we call El Nino effects and all these things. Okay? So El Nino means it affects the production of the oil palm. And subsequently the palm oil production comes down. So the dry seasons, when you have two distinct dry seasons, it's very bad. It's not good, because your oil palm does not flourish under those conditions. Challenges in sustainability. This is becoming an important issue now. Challenges in sustainability. What is this? No clear definition of what is sustainability. It cannot be measured accurately. You go to Europe, sorry, no offense meant to any Europeans here, but basically when you go to Europe, it's all about sustainability. Where are you taking your oil from? Is it from all these deforested areas and all that? Very hard time explaining to the Europeans. Yeah? You know why? You have some of the Europeans have never even stepped into the jungle area. Okay, some. I'm not saying all. Some. You don't even know how a orangutan looks like. But you wear a orangutan uniform in Netherlands and run around loose. Now that is what I call mischievous thinking. Mischievous. I'm trying to put it in the mildest language so that I don't hurt your feelings. But I'm now just telling you, unfortunately, you are the only single European here. What to do? You have to bear the brunt of it. Okay, but basically, what we are now trying to do is that Malaysia adopts a lot of sustainable practices. A lot. We got zero burning. But unfortunately, our neighboring country does a lot of these activities. Neighboring countries. Let's not point the fingers. We are all ASEAN brotherhood. We cannot point any fingers. But it happens in our neighboring country. But we get the brunt. You know why? Because the border is so thin. When the border is so thin, what happens on your other side? The reflection is on our side. But if you go to Sabah and Sarawak and all these places, there's a lot of what they call that conservation practices that is being adopted. So you have to go down there and to really see all these things. So this is where the premium comes in. You tell people to do sustainability practice. My question to all of you, especially to the Europeans, I always ask them, you tell people to walk straight, but do you give them the utensils for them to walk straight? Do you support them? No. You just tell them you must produce all these things in a sustainable manner, but I don't assure you any premium price. And there's a big cost to be, for certification and all that. So this is the problem that we are facing now. A lot of challenges that are coming up. So this is something that we will find difficulty in the sense that we don't get premiums. See, no premiums in return. You ask people to do practices, but you don't pay them for it. Now that is not fair. Certification, look here, how much of cost implicated. Just now, you don't pay them premium, but you look at the cost for certification. 249 million ringgit spent annually to do and maintain RSPO certification. Hey, there's a lot of money, Now, where is the money coming from? It's coming from the companies. You ask them to certify, but you don't pay them premium. I want good quality product coming from you, but up to you, lah. You bear the cost. Is it fair? Now, that's all the developing countries are asking. Is it fair for them to pay such a high cost, and in return, you don't get any premiums for them? Now, that is not fair. But anyway, we live in a very unjust world. The rich become richer, the poor become poorer. What to do? That's the way capitalist world works. So I'm not advocating socialist ideas, please. Don't go tomorrow and start a riot outside there. I'm just telling practicality. Practicality says here is that 249 million spent. Now equivalent to 12% of Malaysian government expenditure on healthcare. Can you imagine that? 12% of our healthcare is that amount of money that goes into the thing. I am not cooking up figures, and these are all actual figures, right? Given by people to us. Carbon footprint. From water footprint, now we are going to carbon footprint. Oh, look at this. Every time there's something new coming out from Europe. Such demands made from developed countries to developing countries. Let us walk the path. Don't kill before the guy even stands up and runs. Here, no. Here, what is happening here, you have got this thing. You talk about RSPO certification. Now, this is round table sustainable palm oil. Certification in cost, and this is what emission industry. Every activity has a carbon footprint. Those days, I remember people used to say, when your jet is flying through European airspace, you have to pay a tax. Why? Because your jet fuel is burning and putting more carbon emissions in the air. They wanted to insist that all flights going in, and that's why Garuda Air was grounded. One of the things, because they were not following all these things. Now that one slowly, don't know what happened to it, but I don't know what's the status now, still being debated, but this is an example of how difficult it is. No palm oil labeling, this is even worse. You tell people not to consume palm oil. This is where the Indonesians became very agitated. You know what they went and did? No palm oil, fair enough. I don't buy your Boeing. And the French got very worried about that. Because the Boeing, one of the biggest one is what? The French. So what they did was, Malaysia, we follow a very diplomatic way. We didn't want to arm twist that. So please, when those who are listening, the other class, please don't go and quote me on this. This is supposed to be highly sensitive. So what I'm now trying to tell you here is that it is not fair. Food manufacturers, retailers in EU have already affixed no palm oil and palm oil free. Now what is this? Let's fight fairly. That's what we're asking. Fight fairly. Let the consumer decide. Don't go and say all these kind of things that no palm oil free. Now these are the challenges that we face not only in the developed countries. That spillover effect is happening in the emerging markets. People get carried away. People get carried away. They say that everything coming from the West is correct. What we are now asking is, let the records be straightened. Let this be there. The labels are misleading and inconsistent with EU's food information. And you can see here what's happening here. The use of any vegetable oils must be expressly listed in the list of ingredient. Why single out palm oil? That's the question. It should be every oil. But here no. It's only telling no palm oil free. So this is one example. Associated with deforestation and sustainability. Let me tell you one thing. We are now, for every tree that's being cut down, another tree is planted in Malaysia. Sustainable Forest Management, how we call that SFM. Sustainable Forest Management. Every tree that's cut has to be replanted with another tree. Now, these are the efforts that's being done in Malaysia. I'm only talking about Malaysia. I don't want to talk about other neighboring countries. That is not our business. But the important thing here is that for consumers in Europe, that is also your business. You know why? Because palm oil. So you have to take what we call in Malaysia, jaga tepi kain orang. Meaning that you have to go and look what your neighbor is doing. Is it fair? Do we tell the European countries go and look at each other's neighbor? We don't tell them. But that is what's happening here. So this is deforestation and sustainability issue, a big issue. Now the spillover effect is in the emerging markets. Key challenges, social aspects. You look here. Land rights, land use, land acquisition. If you take away the land from the Aborigines, that is construed as being socially unacceptable for civil society. Now my question to you is that people in Sabah and Sarawak, who are from Sabah and Sarawak here? Ada ke orang Sabah Sarawak? Oh ada. Angkatlah tangan tinggi-tinggi. See, these are people from Sarawak. Are you going to tell these people in Sarawak which race are you clubbing?
Brunei.
No, Brunei one. Yang from, yeah.
Brunei.
Huh?
Brunei.
Lundayo. I swear about them. But are you going to deprive them what is their social obligation of getting equal rights for enjoyment of this? That should not be the way. Now, but what is happening here? When you take away the land rights, you are telling them that that is not socially acceptable in the West. We are not taking away the land rights. We have got Jabatan what do you call Orang Asli, what we call that Native People's Management Office. We have. So they take care of all these people. Now the other thing is indigenous people, local community. This is interrelated to this. Okay? Smallholders, low productive, independent smallholders. No, in Malaysia, 40% of the planted area is with the smallholders. 40% of the planted area is smallholders. Smallholders play a very significant role in Malaysia. These are people who earn, some of them, now depending, organized smallholders are different. Independent smallholders, they are poor people. These are people who need a lot of assistance. So that is why I talked about the oil palm industry being poverty eradication for the rural communities. It's the one that we call under the FELDA scheme, which we call organized smallholders. These are landless people who have been given land so that they can come out of poverty. So one of the main aims of oil palm industry is, other than flourishing the industry, is to eradicate poverty in rural areas and bring rural development. And that is what we are doing here in these cases. Now again, if you had looked in that Saturday paper, you will see one page in the front where you will see United Plantations giving workers pension money. I'm just keeping one example, plantation workers getting pension money. Meaning that one person, they allocated about 85,000 ringgit. So a lot of money they gave. So to that one man, so he has been given that. Not only one man, this policy in the United Plantations is always adhered to. Now, child and forced labor, this is a real problem with the Americans. They do not know about Asian culture. Asian culture is like this. During the school holidays, these children are bound to go and help their parents. Not only during school holidays especially.
Even in normal days, when you go to the rubber estates, you go to the oil palm estates, you will find children running around, helping their parents. But in US, anybody who is below 18 years and they are found for doing this, it's construed as child labor. This is what I call ignorance of Asian culture. I had a hard time explaining this to the Aussies. And I explained to them, during your fruiting season, for your citrus fruits, you bring in a lot of labor to harvest your fruit. Sometimes you've got school children even harvesting orchard fruits. In the States, you used to do that, but now you don't. Now you bring in Mexican labor. God only knows when Donald Trump comes inside the picture, what will happen to this Mexican labor. A lot is dependent on them. Same thing with food security, as I told you, this is another issue. Social challenges that we can talk about food security. It's always food security versus fuel. Food versus fuel debate goes on very rampantly. So this is another issue that we are looking at. Now, emerging markets. We zoom down straight to the emerging markets, because this was one of the topics. Landlocked countries, especially in the CEE countries. Remember, the Eastern European and Central European countries, landlocked countries. And you can see here, there are 31 landlocked developing countries worldwide. 15 in Africa, 12 in Asia, 2 in Latin America, and 2 in Central and Eastern Europe. Okay, these landlocked countries are paying around 50% more in transport costs than coastal areas. Why? Because you have to move the oil from the port areas to these inland areas. Now, this is a big challenge. This is a big challenge indeed for palm oil, not only for palm oil, for vegetable oils in general. Now, and up to 60% volumes of trade is being handled there, lower. Now, inefficient customs and transit point procedures are considered to the main cause of delays. It's another issue. The challenge here is that how do you take from the producing countries to the consuming countries, especially if they are landlocked countries. So this is another challenge that we are facing. So if you cannot surmount this, you have a problem. How do you want to bring it to these things? The cheapest mode of travel is through rail networks, not by flight or anything. It's the cheapest is still by rail. Okay? So this is where it comes in for that. In China, this is another problem, consumer's preference. Okay, consumer's preference you cannot change overnight. If you ask the Chinese here, where are the Chinese? Any Chinese here? At the back, Chinese. In your house, normally you take what oil? Any Chinese here? Okay, what do you take in your house? What type of oil, vegetable oil do you take? Never mind, give me your brand. What brand do you take?
That's
What?
hot with the red color, brand to the brand against the logo.
Red brand. It's an Eagle brand, correct?
Yeah.
Eagle brand. Why do you take Eagle brand? Because your mother asked you to take. Or in your house you take it.
I'm not really careful.
Yeah, but in your house you all take that oil, correct? Now, okay. The Eagle brand in Malaysia is what we call a blended vegetable oil. Blended vegetable oil. It's produced by Yili in the north. Okay, and it's a blended vegetable oil. It consists of peanut oil, and for the trade circle, majority of it is palm oil. But the Chinese believe it's all peanut oil. You know why? Because all this while, maybe his great-grandmother has been taking that oil, his grandmother has been taking that oil, his mother has been taking the oil. When he gets married, he will ask his wife to take that oil. Why? This is where the thing comes in. Consumer preference for local oils. Now, if you go here, in China, peanut groundnut oil. Now, if you take the knife brand, you know the knife brand, which is a very popular brand, the advertisement shows what in Malaysia? For you all don't know. For the locals, what does it show? What does it show when you see in a TV? Have you seen that brand, knife brand? Other. So what do you see? How does the thing? It shows peanut coming into the oil, correct? Huh? Peanuts coming into that oil. Now, for your information, 95% of that oil is palm oil. But every other Chinese, including my own mother, buys that knife brand oil because she says, well, no, the aroma of peanut is in the oil. Aroma, bau dia. I told you what, palm oil has no smell, but this one has smell. So when you take it, the peanut smell is there. Now people among the Chinese, they prefer peanut oil. So that is why I'm trying to tell you, peanut granola is preferred oil, so for human consumption, while palm oil is more for food manufacturers. Frying of noodles. You fry your noodles basically using palm oil. Like in Japan, ramen. You fry ramen a lot using palm oil for deep frying. Now, this is for deep frying. Lard is still consumed there in Chinese because they prefer lard, the smell of lard. You can take a Chinese out of this thing, but you cannot take the taste food, his food. He still loves Chinese, the lard coming inside because of taste preference. But this is slowly changing towards vegetable oil, mainly for health reasons. Now, in India, consumer preference varies according to region. If you are in the north, if you are in the central, you are in the south, it's different. In the north, they will take canola or mustard oil, okay, and soya bean oil. If you are coming down a little bit south, you are getting what do you call that, this mustard oil coming in, soya bean oil coming in, sunflower oil coming in. Now, if you are going very down south to like all those South India and all that, you will get palm oil. Now, palm oil is basically distributed through the public distribution system. This is a controlled item. You go by ration cuts in India. So basically it is construed as a poor man's oil. Only the poor people take that. They conceive like that. But actually, this oil is what it is termed like that. Perceived, I'm not saying it's what people think. But the oil has very good nutritional properties. It's a very balanced oil. If you take soft oils, you have to harden the oils to make margarine, to make vegetable fats, to make dough fats. All these things, prepared vegetable fats, if you want to harden it, you have to add hydrogen to it. This is what we call hydrogenate the oil. When you do that, you get trans fatty acids. You build up, the bad cholesterol builds up. Now this is not good. Palm oil, on the other hand, is already a balanced oil. It has got saturated and non-saturated and monounsaturated. So this is where the balanced oil comes in. Now, what is happening here is that other than the concept of perceived this thing is the price competitiveness. I already told you earlier, in some markets the price competitiveness is there. This is just giving you an example. How much of savings that they can make. Look here. Wilmar is one of the Singapore-based companies. It is $570 million processor, both listed in Singapore and driving the sales in the Middle East. Just an example of how a company is doing in terms of price competitiveness. But in terms of price competitiveness, I'll show you later. For landlocked countries, I've already explained this to you. You can look here. In Rotterdam is the Netherlands. A Rotterdam report in Netherlands serves as the entry point for palm oil entering into West Europe and other Eastern European countries. Likewise, in Russia, St. Petersburg, for Eastern Europe and Central Asian Republic. Now, all these markets, they take in big volume. Why? Because some of these markets are landlocked countries. When you take in big volumes, you save on the freight. When you ship out palm oil in big volumes, you save on the freight, and that is very useful for your business. Africa. Now, I wanted to zoom down to Africa simply for the reason that is the next frontier for palm oil. Now, according to MPOC, Africa is the third largest palm oil market in 2014, 2.48 million. Population is forecast at 2 billion. Look at this. A huge population, 2 billion. And by 2050, we don't need any other markets, Africa alone to go. They can do justice. But you look at that. In Africa, you're looking at West Africa and East Africa, the rate of growth has been great and believed to be growing continuously at this pace. So this is the next frontier for palm oil. These are the emerging markets that you can see here. Now, an example, I just zoomed down to here. Tanzania is on the East Africa side. And you look at this. Tanzania is a re-exporter of palm products to landlocked countries, Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, Zambia, Malawi. These are all the new markets which are being explored. These are the emerging markets. Why? Because of the sheer size of the population. I always say in China, if every Chinese were to take only 1 kg We can forget about the whole of Europe. 1 kg, look at the population of China. They have the largest population in the world. Now we have only taken a small fraction of the Chinese market. If every one of the Chinese were to take 1 kg of palm oil from Malaysia, enough. Okay, so this is one example we are now trying to tell you. Look at the revenue, Tanzania. This is one good market for emerging markets. And then we have one more country. A lot of people only associate Ethiopia with misery and sufferings. But you look at the potential there. Soap products, widely used for soap. Malaysian products expand phase, getting fast, US dollars to purchase. Now this is where we are now trying to find out how to solve this problem. Waiting period to get US dollars is 1.5 to 2 months. So we have to do unconventional marketing, meaning long-term credit for these markets. Import of palm oil is controlled by the government, which allows 10 entries that are permitted to import. Ethiopia imports 400,000 mainly from Djibouti through railway system. See, again, rail, cheapest way of bringing in oil. So you have to look at all these emerging markets and you can see that Ethiopia JV companies, they want to do that. So there's many methods of penetrating all these emerging markets, either through joint venture collaborations or big companies going and setting up operations there. So this is one example that we know. Djibouti is another small country, but look at the potential here. Has a small population. The country's main revenue is providing service, port service, because it acts as a port service for other countries. But we are looking at all these countries, and you can see here increased by 62.8%. They have increased a lot. Opportunities for Europe. Never discard Europe. Okay, whatever they say. Still, it is there. Palm oil is consumed 25% of total consumption. What are the problems that we are facing there? The threats or the weakness? It is poor perception. Poor perception here. Deforestation, health issues. That is why we have set up offices in Europe now. And we have got a lot of people from Europe to assist in setting the records straight. We bring in policy makers from there and we tell them the truth. Lack of outreach to consumers is one of the big issues. We have to go in there and keep on pounding them with information that is right. Governments protecting domestic, this one can't be helped. This is another issue there. Growing no palm oil to cater for poor public perception. These are negative perceptions that we need to address, and we will continue to address them in Europe. And no palm oil labeling, which I already explained to you, but this is very misleading and inconsistent. And we will overcome these issues in time to come. Now, this is where the orangutan is there. I also love orangutan running from tree to tree. But I would like to see the real orangutan, not the one that's jumping from building to building in Netherlands. I don't like it. They go on the rooftops and everything, they'll go do all kinds of things. But what we have here is a happy orangutan with a baby in the arm. So you can see here, we love to see these orangutans in the wild. That is why if you go to Sabah and you will see Sipilo, Taman Sipilo. You go there, you will see these conservation efforts that we're doing. Malaysia is very mindful. Now, orangutan is not in Peninsular Malaysia. For those, some people say orangutan is all over Malaysia. No. It's only in the island of Borneo. In Malaysia, it's in Sabah. So let's be very careful. We don't go and destroy. Some people say we're destroying this thing. Peninsular Malaysia, where got orangutan? We have only orangutan in Bukit Merah. In a cage. But that doesn't, or in the museum. I mean, the zoo, not museum, zoo. After she goes back and say, I have got what do you call that, orangutans all put in the museum and all that. Slip of the tongue, not the fall of the kite. Okay, negative campaigns. So these are the negative campaigns that we have been trying to find. You see, championing of indigenous people rights against displacement from their native land. Some pockets may happen, but generally we don't do that. We are also very mindful that the Orang Asli or the natives need their own freedom. Okay, so let's not paint the picture. The development effort is there, and we are also collectively doing this. Green sentiments fanned by NGOs, politically vested groups. Now all these are not necessary for the growth of the oil palm industry. But these are the challenges that we face constantly. Now, what is our fear is that what happens in the developed countries, especially Europe, spill over to the developing countries or the emerging markets. That's our concern. And we are now trying to control that from happening. Now look here, I've taken the liberty of giving you nice photographs of what they're doing. Look at this guy. He doesn't even know what is a orangutan, but he walks around in the Netherlands walking like this. Okay? Then another guy goes and sits on top of the Unilever there, wearing the orangutan this thing, and he sits there. And he says, stop deforestation, this thing. God knows. Every one of us eats, and they go and put the killer. You see, this kind of negative campaigns, they go around. And you look at Nutella is a very important in this thing, product. You go to Malaysia, you'll find this. Ferrero Rocher, you can find. All these are using palm oil. But the problem is that people read what they want to read. And they get all these things. In this modern age, all of you got smartphones. Please don't listen to all the rumors that are spread on the smartphones. We cannot have that. That's a big problem that we are facing. Okay, so I've just given you some glimpses of that. This thing I already told you, certified sustainable palm oil is another big issue. Okay, now this one, thank God for this. After all the going to France and all that, finally the latest development, it has been defeated at the National Assembly. If not means we have to incur this amount of money, the tax 90 tons, 90 euro per ton. This is another problem that we are facing. So, but this has been defeated, this French bill. Okay, positive development. We got some friends of palm oil in Europe, and they are working hand in hand with us. We also have this one. This is our latest development, positive development. Italian Alliance for Sustainable Palm Oil was officially incorporated in Rome, and we have this confirm that palm oil is not unhealthier than butter, and that in general there are no health risks other than those associated with our consumption. It's always like this. Anything that you take in excessive amount, that's bad for you. If you take in moderation, shouldn't be a problem. So it's all about you, what you want to take, consumer rights. Okay? West Asia, Central Asia, I've given you these figures. You can see here what is the figures. Just to give you an idea which are the countries here. We are now focusing on this, Iran. All these countries are all very good markets. And you can see here how they are doing now. You're looking at about 400,000 for Iran. Iran is a very good market because the potential of expansion is there. But those days they were a soybean oil consuming market thanks to the Shah of Iran those days. But now it's a different story. Now it's still palm oil coming into the picture. So we can see that. Pakistan is the traditional market. I just wanted to give you an idea. We got some agreements there. I don't want to touch on this because the idea that Dr. Daud gave me was for emerging markets. These are all established markets. Then Iran. You can see here. You can see here basically multiple sanctions from this thing, difficulties in payment, sanction lifted in January 2006. Now these things are changing. So we are now talking to the Iranians so that we can have more palm oil going into the market. And this is basically because the Iranians have realized that vegetable oils is very good, particularly palm oil, for the normal food manufacturers in Iran itself. So we have now re-established, next year we will be re-establishing our office in Iran, in Tehran in particular. So MPOB has got officers in all over the world, okay, but major importing markets we have in the US, we have in Brussels, we have now going to re-establish our office in Tehran, we have in Karachi, we have in China, we have in India. So, and all these markets are being serviced by all these people, technical people. We are keeping them there, so they will know exactly what the consumers want. So India is another thing. We had some problems initially, but they are a little bit funny people. They always have this perceived poor man's oil. So we are setting this record straight by having our office opened up in Mumbai. So we opened up last year, and the office is there. It is to service all the Indian buyers. We are doing that. USA, this forced labor, renewable one, we are addressing it through government to government issues. These are some issues that we are having there. The forced labor and the renewable labor, we are trying to address it on a government to government basis, and we will solve this in time to come. Advantages, this one just to give you an idea. Now this is the advantage for those who are not aware. Look here. We don't clear much land, but you look at this thing. 10 times more oil we produce for the same hectareage. 10 times more we produce for the same hectareage of cultivation. So that's what our inherent advantage for palm oil, because it's a very productive crop. Next one is that we have got high oil yield, 4 to 5 tons of oil per hectare, 10 times higher than oil seeds. And then these are the extensive work that we do. R&D excellence in producing myriad products, extensive plant breeding activities. We have the world's largest collection of oil palm germplasm. If you're asking for the center for excellence in oil palm, there's none other than MPOB. We have the world's largest collection. So that's where it comes in. Then strict enforcement regulatory action measures are done. And then this one, just the comparative cost. I can tell you, just look at the cost here. This is all from LMC, which is the Lendl Mills Corporation. Now this is a consultant company in the UK, and you can see the cost factor there. Very clearly it shows we have got a lot of cost savings in palm. Just to give you an idea. And this is just the price competitiveness. If you are in the business, and if you don't take cognizance of this one, then you better go home and just count other business type of adventures that you want to do. But it's very clear here, CPO, and you can look here, the cost savings. This is cost savings for the palm oil industry, if you are in the business. And then this is just to give you an idea where are the cost savings again. And you can see here, in terms of chemicals, I have taken soya bean, sunflower. I did not put canola oil, simply for the reason is because the competition is mainly between these oils. And you can see here, what kind of cost savings that we have here. Look, for the price, landed price of this, which is already very cheap, you can see here, not much cost is incurred. You look at the others, how much of cost is being incurred. Now these are all factual proofs that oil palm is indeed a very conducive crop in terms of both cost manufacturing and productivity. Emerging trends, this I've already highlighted to you. This is the company mergers, rising health conscience is there. As you can see here, people are beginning to changing consumption pattern from animal fats to vegetable oils. In USA, trans fats banned from food. In 3 years, in India, China, more consumers opting for less oil, but cooking for healthier lifestyle. That is why now palm oil is becoming an oil of choice, because people are now realizing that it's better to have a balanced oil than a non-balanced oil. And particularly if you are going into deep frying and all other kinds of prepared vegetable fats. The way forward, we will continue to target all these things. Counter trade is one method that we are now trying to do. We are talking about bulking installation and setting up in Eastern Europe through joint ventures, increasing usage of palm products by having our research centers right smack in the consuming countries, and then we are doing the free trade areas. Somebody might ask what happened to TPPA. It's out of the picture now with Donald Trump taking it out, so I have taken it out from my list as well. What to do, after all the efforts we have done, but can't be helped. Then the future growth again depends on consumers' continuing acceptance of palm oil. We still need to focus a lot on this area. Now this is the area where we have already started bringing a lot of policy makers from Europe to come and tell them the real truth of what is happening on the ground. Let them see on the ground. We bring them here to Sabah, let them see, so that they can go back and convince the politicians that what is happening in Malaysia is the way forward. Okay? Then the positive engagement with Western NGOs, we are now doing a lot of engagements. We bring in people for discussions, we sit down, we talk to them, and now we got our own sustainability, Malaysian sustainability palm oil, that we are now telling these people, look here, this is what we are now doing. And also we are doing a lot of policy engagements with the US, EU, how to look at the Malaysian palm oil, sustainable palm oil particularly, on the ground that palm oil production is not to the detriment of environmental destruction. We want to tell them, look here, in Malaysia we're doing all these efforts. Don't brand Malaysia as destroying the forest. Then the conclusion, again, people, as long as you and I are living in this earth, we will continue to be doing this, consuming more palm oil. And then this one, palm oil is a versatile oil. The image of palm oil is a strong positive image with overseas buyers. So this is where the advantage comes for palm oil, because these two things are very important. One, it is a versatile oil and it has got myriad applications. That means dia ada banyak kegunaan dia. Okay, substantial cost savings like what I've indicated in the earlier slide. Cost of raw materials next to none or very minimal. Reduction in the use of chemicals, minimal cost of or no cost of hydrogenation. Why hydrogenation? Because if you want to harden the oil to make other prepared vegetable fats, you have no choice, but you have to use this. Now, that's all I have to explain here. Doctor, I have finished my this thing. It's a long this thing. I've taken 2 hours exactly. Okay. The reason why I wanted to tell you is because quite a number of you are not familiar with the palm oil. And I want, when you leave this room, at least you know something about it. I'm not picking on Sweden, please. I'm trying to make sure that what you people are now trying, I mean people means the buyers in Europe are telling us is that we must do this. When we do this, we must be paid for this, we must be paid for this, and we must be paid for this. That's all we are asking. We want whatever cost implications are taking place, it must be in relation to the remunerative returns that the industry must be getting. That's all we are asking. Right? So we're not picking on Europeans for the sake of Europeans. Don't forget, as I told you, half of my education years were done in Europe. So why should I want to condemn the Europeans for that? So as much as I'm thankful, but at the same time I must also be defending 40% of the population in Malaysia, the poverty people who are the poor independent smallholders who don't have any avenue. Okay, they have to depend on the industry for their livelihood. If you don't assist them, then who else is going to assist them? So this is my closing remarks on that matter. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you to Encik Balu for the very profound presentation about this palm oil industry. Even myself, so I got a lot of new information for me.
Yeah.
For example, that oil palm.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, so I think we have a few minutes, probably half an hour, probably, for the question and answer. So any of you have a question, so please ask Encik Balu while he's here. So this is a big opportunity to have a person who has a big, huge experience in the palm oil industry in international business context. So I think this is probably one in lifetime, especially for the international student, one in lifetimes. And even I think it's for the local student, I don't think that you're going to have the same opportunity to meet him. So please take this opportunity to ask questions to Encik Balu. So.
Okay, I leave my business card for those who want to contact me later. Okay, if there's any questions, but at the same time, I open the floor to any questions. Anybody? So the lady from Japan, okay, I praise your country a lot, but it's the truth. That's the truth. Sweden I like is not because of anything, because it's very developed, and there's a lot of cycling routes there, which we can learn also from them. Okay, any guys or ladies who want to ask questions? Anybody? Who's from the oil palm plantation? Any of the Indian here? No? All modern,
Family.
Family? No? No, none.
Mesti orang lain family.
Tak ada,
Kebun kicik.
Anyway, I grew up in a oil palm estate, so there's nothing stopping. But I spent a lot of time in the Malay community. So today it's okay, because if anybody comes and says to me that what do you call that? Coming from the Malay background and I have not excelled well. I was the first batch of students who what do you call that? Did all my studies in Bahasa Malaysia, 100%. Okay, until I went off to overseas. But it's all. My first degree was in Bahasa. Not in UKM, of course, not in UKM. But now I got a lot of affiliation to UKM simply because, as Dr. Daud mentioned, we have got an endowment check for those who are doing research and all that. Economic research you can still do on this thing, but it has to be oil palm related. Okay? Any questions? Ada? Madam, you from Sweden, any questions? Were you a little bit antagonized by what I said? No, I hope not.
Probably one thing is
Yes.
because of when we sign PPP, there's a big opportunity for palm oil industry for US market.
Okay.
Now, well, it's still not the end of this
Yeah.
thing. Still, there's some opportunities, some hopes. Probably Trump will change his mind. But looking at recently, our Prime Minister visited China, and in one of your slides says that China market is going down, negative.
That's
But
for
looking at-
2016.
So looking at how is our Prime Minister is approaching China, and there's some of the political business things. So how do you look at the opportunity for palm oil industry in China?
Now you see, there's two thinkings. One is TPPA, one is RCEP. Now for those who don't know what is TPPA, it's Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. It involves 12 member countries. Now RCEP is what we call Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. I'm involved in every single one of the FTAs Malaysia negotiates. I'm a WTO negotiator for Malaysia and an FTA negotiator for the countries. What we do in the FTA negotiations and the WTO, now WTO, just for your information, this one doesn't go out of the room, please. Okay. Now it has become an acronym for World Talk Organization. World Talk Organization. The real word is World Trade Organization. But a lot of people have gone on to say that we do a lot of talking, but no finishing. The simple reason is because to get a few countries to agree under TPPA is so difficult. What more to get 158 countries to agree in the World Trade Organization? Imagine, the World Trade Organization is centered in Geneva. I used to travel to Geneva, like my mother used to say to me when she was alive. The house becomes the hotel, your Geneva office becomes your home, because I go very frequently. Those days, at least 2 to 3 times in a year, I travel to Geneva. Now the simple thing here is like this. In the case of TPPA, 12 member countries, including Malaysia, are signatories to it. But starting in 2 years' time, that means 2 years' time means by 2018, the agreement has to be rectified. It was spearheaded by the US, of course. There's a lot of arguments at the early stages, and a lot of secrecy is involved because negotiating positions cannot be revealed to other countries. Because what we do is that we have to negotiate bilaterally, and then after that we will do it within the 12 member countries. But we cannot openly declare what is given to one country to another country, so we have to study it very carefully. Now, the understanding is that at least 6 member countries must be still rectifying the countries. So it's not like what Dr. Daud says, it's not the end. Donald Trump wants to pull out this one simply for the reason is he wants to keep American jobs for Americans. Okay, he doesn't want other countries coming in. Now, what will happen is one of the things is that Mexican labor will come into the US market. Then the Mexican, other products from other member countries will come in, it will affect the jobs of Americans. That is his fear. So he has given this kind of thing. So anyway, he has pulled out. He has said that the first thing he will do is when he comes into office in January, he will take out America or the US from the TPPA. Or he will take it out. So forget about the Philippines that you can smile and be happy about it. Philippines has not joined the TPPA. They were planning to join in. So too bad for your president, it's not going to happen. Now, what is happening here is that, but at the same time, there are 6 other signatories who can rectify. Malaysia has already rectified the thing. Okay, under parliament, we have already gone. Now, Vietnam was on the verge of rectifying it, but they say that we'll wait and see what the presidential outcome was in the US. So they have not rectified it. Now, the other countries are either in the process or some have already rectified the thing. The most important thing is that, of course, US is the anchor company. We have yet to see what will happen after that. But as long as 6 countries rectify it, then the TPPA can proceed. Okay? But the question here is that the big brother who initiated the thing is not there how. So this is the big question mark that's going to happen. Now, as far as palm oil, as far as for the Malaysian palm oil industry, we have 4 countries where we don't have any free trade agreement before. 4 countries. What are the countries? USA, Peru, Mexico, and Canada. We don't have any FTA countries. So when we have an FTA, then either we reduce or eliminate tariffs. So in some countries we eliminate the tariffs upon entry into force of the agreement. In some countries, we got quota being extended. I don't want to mention specific countries, but this all you can look up in the website. So the advantage is that when you have a free trade agreement, some of these trade barriers, or what we call import tariffs, will be either eliminated or reduced over phases, over a phase of periods. Some will be reduced and then quotas will be given. Quota means that you can bring in certain amount of palm oil, and within the quota, then you get a lower import tariff. But outside the quota, let's say you bring in, say, 10,000 tons of certain product. That 10,000 tons is given a lower tariff. Whereas the other 30,000 tons that you want to bring into the country will be on a higher import tariff. So these are the advantages. So for us, when it comes to the palm oil industry, we have made a lot of strides, big gains in this one, but unfortunately, we do not know what's going to happen now. So this is something that we will have to wait and see. That is for TPPA. Now we have another one more, an FTA agreement or the free trade agreement that's led by the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, that is ASEAN, the 10 member countries of ASEAN, dealing with 6 dialogue partners. 6 dialogue partners of ASEAN. This will include China, Japan, India, and all these countries coming into the picture. Now these are what we call that countries which are led by China. So you have one, they say one is led by the US, one is led by the Chinese. The Chinese one, China wants to do it by the end of this year, if not by 2017, earliest. They want to do that. So they want to jump, they want to go fast ahead. Now that one will also mean that all these countries will have greater trade liberalization with the existing markets. So this is how the two countries are coming into picture. Malaysia, we are involved in both countries, both FTAs. Simply for the reason is, FTAs for Malaysia are very important. Simply because you must understand that we have a very small domestic population. We are, some people say, it ranges between 17th or 18th largest trading nation in the world. We need international trade. It is important for Malaysia for international trade because of our small domestic population. We need that free trade areas, and that free trade areas will ensure Malaysian exports of products go out of the country, and they find these export markets being very lucrative to Malaysian palm oil products. Not only palm oil products, but for other products as well. So that is why FTAs are very important. So this is something that we can open up and we deliver in terms of free trade agreement. So you have one, which is RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, to some large extent led by China, and you have the TPPA to a large extent led by the US. Only thing is that, like what Dr. Daud says, we will have to see what happens when Mr. Donald Trump comes into office in January. We would not know until he comes in. Things can change. He may make a change, we wouldn't know. But up to this point, that was what he has declared in his election campaign, and we have to see what turns up after this. Okay? So that is a question still not answered fully. Any other questions?
Question from student?
Any?
One or two questions?
Ada? Boleh tanya soalan dalam bahasa Malaysia, tak jadi masalah. Tanyalah. Ada? Sekarang dah tahu apa beza dia kelapa sawit, ha? Dah tahu lah? Yeah, anybody? I heard some point. Ada? Guys? Anything? Ada? Tak ada? Dah faham tak kelapa sawit? Okay, eh? Sorry, I have to ask them in their language that they feel more comfortable. Anybody here on this side?
No question.
Ada?